Apollo 12 was the sixth manned flight in the United States Apollo program and the second to land on the Moon. It was launched on November 14, 1969 from Kennedy Space Center, Florida 4 months after the Apollo 11 mission. On November 20, 1969 on their return to the command module, Mission Commander Charles Conrad and pilot Alan Bean left the Apollo takeoff module 12 to intentionally collapse on the Moon next to a seismograph they had also placed. Something unexpected happened on impact. The Moon began to vibrate like a bell for almost an hour. Wernher von Braun, NASA's director at the time, decided that the Apollo 13 mission would intentionally hit a heavier portion of the rocket from the Moon's surface. When they did, the Moon vibrated like a gong, this time over 3 hours to a depth of about 30 kilometers. The conclusion reached then was that the Moon is empty. Its surface mostly contains a rock called basalt. Although it is a light rock, it absorbs impacts very well. If the Moon were basalt, it should not vibrate at a strong impact. Also, another strange thing was noticed. Selene-Orion craters, although some are very large or very small, are about the same depth, which normally should not be the case. For example, terrestrial craters have variable depths. Another strange thing about Selene-Orion craters is that some of them are convex at the point of impact, so somehow the Moon has kept its curvature, which is illogical. In July 1970, after years of analyzing the discoveries of various lunar missions, 2 Russian scientists, Mikhail Vazin and Alexander Serbakov, published an article in Sputnik magazine in which they drew a shocking conclusion about the nature of the Moon. Their theory was that the Moon is the creation of intelligent aliens brought to Earth in the distant past. Also, starting with the 5th century BC, the Romans and the Greeks wrote that there was an era in which the Moon was not in the sky. Similar references exist in the Old Testament. Also, some Zulu legends say that the Moon was brought hundreds of generations ago by gods, who placed it near the Earth to keep an eye on humans. In addition to all this, there are some bizarre scientific coincidences related to the Moon. For example, the Moon has its perfect orbit and size for total solar eclipses. Its 3,476 kilometers diameter disk perfectly covers the Sun, and the probability that such a thing is accidental is very small according to some scientists. This is possible due to another coincidence, namely the diameter of the Sun is about 400 times larger than that of the Moon, and again by chance with the necessary quotes the Sun is 400 times farther from the Moon. That's why the Sun and the Moon look just as big in the sky when there are total solar eclipses. The Earth satellite is not only too close for its size, but it is also the only object in the solar system with an almost perfectly circular orbit. Also, no other satellite has a stabilizing role like the Moon for Earth. Following computer simulations, it was concluded that without the Moon, the Earth's axis would be completely different than it is today, and there would be no seasons, which would make life on Earth not as we know it. So the Moon sustains life on Earth, and without it we might not exist. As can be seen, there are several bizarre, hard to explain coincidences about the Moon, which might lead us to believe that there is an intelligence that has made these things so accurate. The truth is that the Moon is a spacecraft placed by an ancient civilization from the Sirius A system, in Earth orbit about 70 million years ago to prepare the project of the creation and evolution of the human being on Earth. In the following I will present in summary as it appears from the book The Etheric Crystal, written by Radu Sinamar, which is more precisely the Moon, the so-called natural satellite of the Earth. The reason why it was placed in Earth orbit and interesting aspects related to the technologically advanced extraterrestrial civilization who carried out this huge project. We will also find out what life on our planet looks like about 70 million years ago. Before starting the story, I must mention that the way in which Radu Sinamar saw all these things related to the Moon is similar to the one presented in the book Forgotten Genesis. That is, in short, Radu Sinamar saw the distant past of mankind through a quantum device for accessing Akashic cliches owned by intraterrestrials from the city of Apulos under the Apuseni Mountains located in Romania. More details about this device can be found in the book Forgotten Genesis. Let's start. About 98 million years ago in the Sirius A system there was an evolved humanoid civilization that had reached a fairly advanced technological level. That civilization could travel interstellar with huge ships, which means that it had some control over the laws that govern space and time. The members of that civilization were not the Sirians of today but their very distant forerunners. The race of those humanoid beings has evolved over time and gone through several transformations. Eventually it disappeared but various information from its DNA was passed on to many other types of humanoid civilizations that followed one another in time from the planetary system of the star Sirius A, until it reached the characteristics of the current Sirius race. The typology of beings from that extremely old Sirian civilization was quite similar to humans even if their average height was about 1.90 to 2 meters. The skin was pearly white with a slight blue tint, and in most cases the hair ornament was the color black with shades of dark blue. Their eyes were larger than those of an ordinary human being but their mouths were smaller. The harmony of the features, the dignified attire and the verticality of the character that radiated from the way they moved and acted were transmitted through eons of time to today's Sirians. Those ancestors of the Sirius knew quite well their own constellation, namely the Big Dog constellation which includes the star Sirius A, the brightest in the sky, but also the constellation Orion they had populated by forming colonies. Later these populations were individualized and reformed by hybridization with other alien races. It seems that the Earth was one of the sole planets of the ancient Sirians guarded by them with patience and perseverance. The experience they had accumulated in the hundreds of thousands of years of cosmic evolution made them understand that when the question of a transformation in the planetary biosphere arose, it had to be done gradually and over a long period of time. The Sirians learned this from failure. They tried to terraform a natural satellite around a planet in a binary star system and the ecosystem did not keep up with the transformation of the atmosphere and eventually dried up. That failure was an important lesson for them. That is why when the problem of terraforming the Earth was raised, their plan to achieve this stretched for hundreds and even thousands of years to allow the biosphere to adapt and develop naturally and sustainably. About 60 to 70 million years ago the soil of our planet was largely covered with coniferous forests and not at all with deciduous or flowering forests. There were a lot of fairly large areas with cactus. At that time, plants, trees, ferns, and cactus were very large and much larger than they are today. In those distant times the Earth's atmosphere contained much more carbon dioxide, and the planet's magnetic field was more intense. There was a lot of dust in the atmosphere, and the light from the sun was filtered by it and the sky was bright yellow-orange. Everything was foggy like during a weaker sandstorm in the Sahara. In the atmosphere of the planet as well as in the cosmic space in its vicinity there was a lot of dust which blocked the sunlight. The plants on Earth were greenish-blue, sometimes reddish-brown. The vegetation was lush with large fleshy leaves with cactus and aloe-like leaves. The aquatic environment was more developed with huge algae and many living things of all kinds. On land there were only reptiles in various forms, insects of a great variety, but there were no mammals. There were no intelligent beings on our planet at that time. The ancestors of the Sirians chose the Earth because the gravity of our planet was suitable for the structure of their body, adapted to the specific radiation of the star Sirius A, but similar in some respects to that emitted by our Sun. There were also disadvantages. First of all, the Earth's atmosphere did not have a very good composition for the beings of that ancient civilization so that the air could be breathed for a long time and without a protective helmet. On the other hand, genetic studies showed that the Earth had long since reached a state of stagnation in its evolution. The ancient Sirian civilization realized that anyway, if it had initiated the process of terraforming the planet, it would not have changed much in those conditions due to the modest biological material that existed then. Their scientific teams noticed that at the biological level, the genetic combinations that existed on the planet were still quite simple. There was not a great variety of those combinations, neither in the vegetable nor in the animal kingdom, although the flora and fauna were quite rich. Then the problem arose of making this planet evolve further. and the stages of evolution were to first purify the air by removing fine and abundant dust, enriching the atmosphere with oxygen, and then making more complex genetic crosses for life on the planet to evolve. At that time, the moon was the flagship of that advanced civilization. Inside the ship there was a hall with huge white arches. In the middle of it was what we might call a round table, and around it were several representatives of that civilization who were part of the ship's leadership. Everyone present wore a silver-white suit with blue inserts like long lines along the arms and torso. Those beings were then discussing in the room inside the ship, that is the moon at present, about the possibilities of impelling the evolution on our planet and about its terraforming. Everyone present had gadgets similar to today's tablets but larger, and similar to thin, silver, and almost transparent sheets that could be folded but could be as strong as ordinary tablets. One of the meetings was attended by a female being named Orma, who was the head of the research department of their galactic mission. Orma was a very good researcher, specializing in what we might now call planetary nanobiology. That Syrian woman had deep knowledge in the quantum field, in the field of dwarfs, high energies, and fundamental forces, in particular gravity. The studies that ancient civilization was doing in our galaxy involved a lot of stellar systems and planets. The flagship that is our moon today was then one of the study ships in this area of the galaxy. Orma was mainly involved in operations to transform a planet into a suitable habitat for the life of those extraterrestrial beings, or simply to facilitate the evolution of civilizations that already existed on those planets. It seems that the ancient Syrian race had many colonies in various parts of the galaxy. Orma often came to Earth accompanied by a research team, all members wearing a kind of mask around their mouth and nose. The climatic conditions were suitable for their body because they did not wear a spacesuit but only the mask for purifying the breathed air. The research team took samples from different environments: soil, water, and plant environment. After some time, after studying the problem of the Earth based on the data collected and appropriate technologies, Orma came before the council of the flagship with several proposals. She studied in depth the structure of DNA in the vegetation and fauna that existed at that time on Earth, and observed that the different combinations of DNA, as well as biological exchanges at the atomic level, were quite complex. But they had reached a maximum crossroads. Beyond that there was no longer the possibility of evolution. She came up with a solution. She said that in order to further drive evolution, a permanent, constant force field was needed to act on the Earth's biosphere. The possibility of bringing plants and animals from other planets to integrate them on Earth was discussed, but the result would have been uncertain and relatively long. It seems that a general terraforming of our planet was needed to ensure a habitat suitable for life. Local action restricted to only one area or certain areas of the planet would not have been enough. Thus the council of the flagship opted for the variant that involved the action of a gigantic overall force field, that would influence in a constant and profound way at the DNA level, the vegetal and the animal life on Earth. They then decided on a complex, profound, and overall terraforming of the planet that would eventually lead to the biosphere we know today. Due to the vast experience they already had in this field, the members of that civilization did not hurry because they knew that such terraforming could take hundreds of Earth years or even more. Orma showed the members of the flagship's council that the force of the giant field to be applied to Earth had to meet an interesting condition, namely that it would act for a long time, but nevertheless it had to be variable. She showed that if the energy of the force field were continuous, then biological life would have become accustomed to it after a while, which would have led to a new flattening of evolution on Earth. But if that energy had a periodic variation, then the premises of some biologically active combinations would have been fulfilled and life would always have been impelled. At that time, it was not yet clear what that huge field of energy would generate. Orma had presented only the idea as well as the calculations that showed the parameters necessary for it to be effective on life on Earth. This does not solve the problem of dust in the atmosphere, which prevents sunlight from reaching the surface of the planet. One solution was to vacuum the dust around the planet. Then Orma was inspired to unite the two ideas, namely to terraform the planet through that outer force field and clean the dust around the Earth in a single action. Her idea was for that fluctuating force field to encompass the entire planet and envelop it like a halo of energy. To achieve this, she proposed bringing a cosmic body with a mass large enough around the Earth to meet both requirements, to drive the evolution of plant and animal kingdoms on the planet, and to help aspirate the cosmic dust around it. Orma's idea later became a concept for which she became famous in many planetary systems. Since then, the civilization of the ancient Syrians has understood and widely applied the idea of multi-effect action, of using galactic energies and placing precisely calculated points of enormous masses that by their presence and specific field, in combination with other influences of cosmic energies, to influence in a precise and correlated way certain processes of evolution of life where it was necessary. After it was decided to implement that brilliant idea that Orma had, thousands of beings on the flagship carried out a huge and extremely complex work using advanced technology to make simulations over time of the processes, possibilities and effects that could to appear. The result was that such an action would mean an extraordinary leap in the evolution of life on Earth, and then the question arose of choosing the most appropriate method to achieve this concretely. One solution proposed the actual construction of such a huge object to be placed in the vicinity of the Earth, which would be equivalent to building a new planet-sized ship. This would have meant a special effort even for that advanced civilization. Another proposal was to tow a natural satellite of Jupiter or Saturn and put it in orbit, but this would have involved a whole host of other major issues, such as the difficulty related to the mass of that satellite that would not be consistent with that resulting from calculations and simulations. Then came the idea of bringing a gas satellite with a liquid core that would have a large volume and could have influenced the biosphere of our planet. An interesting suggestion came from a high echelon of that ancient civilization. Those on the ship were told that an idea for solving the problem could have been the use of one of the huge spaceships already in use that would approach both in shape and mass dimensions with the conditions, calculations, and simulations of the project proposed by Orma. That ingenious solution would have been much easier to apply and with fewer technological problems than the other solutions highlighted so far. The flagship of that civilization, which was then the largest, was chosen, but it was already obsolete and had been in service for several thousand years. The mass compensation of that ship was then calculated with the accretion of interplanetary dust and rock debris still gravitating around the Earth until the ship reached the required size and volume of the ELM project. At the same time, it was established through complex calculations, the exposure of only one face of the Moon to the Earth. If the spacecraft had a different angular velocity around its axis, the full exposure of its surface would have led to the implementation of other types of energy frequencies in the Earth's biosphere that were not needed to transform life on the planet's surface as ancient Syrian civilization wanted. Thus the flagship became the Moon or the so-called natural satellite of the Earth. The flagship seems to have been built more like a conglomeration of cities traveling through space, because there was a biosphere, a very well-generated and controlled living environment. Inside the ship there are many sophisticated and fast elevators, means of transport similar to the more aerodynamic trains as well as flying vehicles of many types propelled without combustion. The spacecraft was placed in the calculated orbit around the Earth, and began to suck abundant cosmic dust around our planet. The process was long. The interplanetary dust was aspirated and settled on the outer shell of the spacecraft, creating a not too thick crust. At that time, the new satellite and our planet were hit massively by meteorites coming from a large cosmic cataclysm that had taken place between Mars and Jupiter. It seems that the planet orbiting that region of the solar system now known as Tiamat or Maldek has been destroyed. This was a terrestrial planet about the size of Uranus. It seems that that planet, due to its huge size, subtly determined the evolution of dinosaurs on Earth, especially through the influence of gravity and the giant radiation it had. After it exploded, the subtle energetic support in the process of developing the DNA of the dinosaurs disappeared. It seems that the extinction of dinosaurs about 65 to 70 million years ago is related to the extinction of this planet. Dinosaurs gradually disappeared not necessarily because of the impact with the great meteorite, but because their DNA was no longer supported by the specific energy of the planet between Mars and Jupiter that exploded. The structure of the macromolecule has worn down, collapsed, and the remaining dinosaur species on Earth have disappeared over time. However, other animal species were favored that were energetically supported by the subtle influences of the other planets, to which were added the climate changes that occurred during that period. The new satellite helped capture a significant portion of the fragments and remnants of matter and rock that came from the great explosion of the planet between Mars and Jupiter, mitigating the effect of devastating impacts on Earth. Other planets have also captured significant parts of the large planet destroyed by the explosion, or even satellites of it that later became satellites of other planets in the solar system. After the new satellite entered its responsibilities on Earth, flowering plants gradually began to appear. The first flowers appeared on cactus because they were the most numerous at the time. After the fundamental transformation in plant and animal life on our planet ended, the giant ship stabilized in its current orbit with the characteristics we know today.